Thanks for tuning in to the Football Talk Squadron. I'm Dutch.
I'm Maul.
And I'm Pops.
This is our week 1 post NFL episode going into week 2. Got game tonight, Washington, Green Bay. We'll talk about the how we'll do it. It's sort of how we did it last year. We'll talk about the games that are coming up this week, but also taking a look back of last week and just sort of teams' performances. But before we go into that, we had trivia. The last one was a little rough on the college episode. This one's going to be a lot easier in terms of guessing. Most Pro Bowls by NFL players top 8. Now, y'all can start rattling off names, or I can give you a breakdown of the positions in terms of
top 8 players like to have ever made
in
Pro
NFL
Bowls?
history. The number of Pro Bowls, most Pro Bowls by an NFL player in NFL history.
How
Andy
many
Brady.
of them are quarterbacks?
3. Do you
I'll
want
give-
the rest of the breakdown?
I want Brady.
Brady is 1. He is the number 1 guy.
Peyton.
Peyton is number 2.
Tony Gonzalez.
Tony G is number 4. He's the only tight end on the list.
Troy Polamalu.
Not on the list.
Emmitt Smith.
Not on the list.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Not on the list. Not top 8.
Drew Brees, the other quarterback.
Drew Brees is the final quarterback. He comes in at number 7.
Who's number 3? Offensive player?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to skip over that. Let me get Ed Reed.
Just off the list.
Wow.
Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice is number 5. So you're missing number 3, number 6, and number 8.
Randy Moss?
Moss is not on the list.
I feel like he didn't play that long to get on the list, but
He did play long. You just forget about those Oakland years where he really didn't play.
well, you know what I meant.
Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis is number 8.
Are any of them current?
No one on this list is current. So you're missing 2 players.
What are the breakdown? What are the positions?
1 offensive lineman, 1 defensive lineman.
Aaron Donald.
Nope.
No, I didn't play long enough.
Reggie White.
Reggie is the defensive guy. Comes in at number 6. So you're missing the most awarded offensive lineman in NFL history. If you want a hint, I think it's a good hint. I'll give it to you.
Joe Thomas.
Not Joe Thomas.
Orlando Pace.
Nope.
Michael Orr.
Nope. It wasn't Michael Orr.
Jason Kelsey.
No.
How long ago did he play?
Jeff Saturday.
Finished in the early 2000s. But mainly the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s.
Nate Solder.
Nope. Nate was started later in the career.
Did he have any kids that played in the league?
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes. Bruce Matthews is the answer.
Whoa.
He's number 3 all time.
He was an offensive lineman?
Yeah, Hall of Famer.
Didn't know that. Learn something new every day. Good trivia.
There you go. I like those.
A lot better than college.
Yeah, sorry, the college one was rough. That's on me. Going into Thursday night game, Washington, Green Bay. Green Bay comes out and just smacks the Lions, and Washington did what they needed to against the Giants, which I saw a clip of, like, it was Family Guy summarizing teams after week 1, and it was that Stewie's at a Mets game, and it's like, in first pitch and season's over, and it just had a Giants logo on its head. So that got me laughing. Dude, finally a primetime game we can get hyped about tonight. Washington, Green Bay. Thoughts?
Well, I think after the first year they did Amazon on Thursday nights, everybody complained of how terrible the games were. Last year it got better. And then, I mean, this year they're knocking it out of the park. I mean, we had the the boys against the Eagles last week, and then this week we've got this game. And dude, in my personal opinion, I think Detroit's garbage time touchdown overshadows, and I hate to say it, but I think it overshadows the dominance of the Packers that whole entire game. And based on what I saw, the Commanders against New York, give me Green Bay. Like, I hate to say it as a Bears fan, but right now, Green Bay is my clear-cut favorite for the NFC North.
Yeah, I feel like that first year on Prime was because there were like 6 games that we had to watch the Broncos with Russell Wilson, and it was just awful. Like, it was just like, I'm so sick of watching this team.
We paid him $50 million. We got to make it work.
Yeah. I'm with you, Pops. Like, the Commanders, this one's tricky because it's like they weren't a good team last year with Jaden Daniels. They looked fantastic, but I mean, we've seen that story play out before with, new quarterbacks coming in, making a big splash real quick, and then just completely falling off. I don't think that's that's a perfect example, right? Like, I don't think that's necessarily what's happening. There's obviously some regression there. I think the Commanders are getting a bigger boost because they went to the NFC Championship than like they truly were, because again, I don't think anybody expected them to get there. They were the one team, honestly, that looked like it was week 1 for. No, that's not true. There was a few others, but like from like a team that we expected to be good, like we knew the Bengals were going to struggle. Like I don't think that one really surprised anybody. Their offense didn't play as well as anybody else thought they were going to, but like the Bengals always struggle week 1. They always struggle against the Browns. The Texans weren't good, but like they showed kind of who they were last year. Like, this was the one team in the Commanders that like we expected to come out and be good, and they're also playing the Giants, and like you said, they were just stuck in the mud. So that was like the one real surprise for me of like, this team looks like they're playing week 1. Like, because we were getting some fire games this for week 1, dude. Those games were lit.
Mm-hmm.
And the Commanders just could not put away the Giants, which is very concerning, very concerning. So I'm with you. Like, that's a long story for like, yes, I do think the Packers probably take this because it's in Lambeau as well. And if it's just turns out that the Commanders are just going to start the season slow, that's fine. I'll pick them later down the road during the rest of the season. They need to get up to speed, but the Packers didn't come out slow, and if they play the way they did against the Lions, they're going to do the same thing to the Commanders that they did to the Lions.
I like the Packers. The thing that makes me mad about ESPN and other shows is they were hammering Micah's stat line, which if you just look at stats, it doesn't tell the whole story. But anyone that watched that game goes, man, he made their team instantly better on defense. Like, he may not have gotten the tackle. He may not have gotten the pass rush, but they were double teamed. Like, he was creating enough of a problem that it allowed other guys on the team to shine.
It's that J.J. Watt effect.
Yes.
You got to put all 5 guys on J.J. Watt so then you don't block the other 3 guys.
100%. So, yeah, I feel bad for Pops, especially after we'll get to it here in a little bit. With Monday night, I hate you so much. Ruin a survivor pick for me. I had faith in you. You said the Bears
week 1
we're going to win. You said you'd name your next kid after me if they didn't. So that's on you. Tell your wife that. That's a lie, but that's how I feel. I like the Pack. Next game up, Jags Bengals. Jags make Bryce Young look like the kid that he is, and the Bengals barely squeak out one. If it wasn't for the Browns kicker, Bengals lose again to the Browns. Thoughts on the game?
You go ahead, Maul.
The Panthers aren't a good football team. I was wrong. I was kind of falling into the like, I think Bryce Young's going to do a lot better. The Panthers going to be a better team this year. No, Panthers are not a good football team. That being said, the Jags played fine against them. This is going to be the story, excuse me, all year for the Bengals, where if the Jags can just play a decent game on offense, it's going to be close because the Bengals defense is so bad. That being said, again, I just talked about it. Like the Bengals didn't play extremely well against the Browns. They probably should have lost that game. Sometimes teams just have your number. The Browns always have Joe Burrow's. I think the stat was like he's 1-9 or something like that in week 1 games. So I think the Bengals still take it just because I think they're a better team, like an overall team. But it might be closer than some people think, just because the Jags didn't look terrible, but I think that was because they're playing the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean the concerning thing, we talked about it off the air. We didn't do NFL predictions last week, but I told you guys that I had the Browns beating the Bengals week 1 just because the way that Joe Burrow starts the season. And the most concerning fact was in the second half, they held them to 7 yards, at one point of the game. And it's just like there has to be something on that offense that has to get rolling for them in week 2. Otherwise, they're going to be 1-1, which isn't going to be too terribly painful, but it's still at the same time, it's just like we've got some bigger problems that we got to fill. And honestly, it's the offensive line. The good news is that they don't have to face Myles Garrett this week. I sent you guys that clip. Like, I don't know how Joe Burrow is still alive, but
he's going to Andrew Luck himself right out of the
correct. And that's the thing too. Like, that's the most concerning thing about this franchise. Like, yes, I think Joe Burrow's got more of a competitor spirit than Andrew Luck does, and he would not be willing to give it up. But in the same sense, it's just like, how long is this guy just going to get absolutely, destroyed in the backfield before he finally does, like, yeah, this is not it, and I'm done. But for the sake of week 2, I trust Burrow more than I do T-Law, so I'm going with them.
I think that what Maul said about a team having your number, the Browns have always had Burrow's number. I like Burrow in them to the offense to look way better against the Jags, but also back to Maul's point, if the Jags just play halfway decent on offense, what we saw all last year will come true again. Like, Burrow will throw for 5 touchdowns, and still the Vegas line will be close of 3.5, just because Cincy's defense can't stop anybody. And I hate it for Maul because last year he drafts ETN. ETN doesn't do anything. Week 1, you're like, God, of course that you would go off on week 1 and look like this. And now they traded Tank Bigsby.
Yeah, as I say, so much so that they were like, we don't need a backup. Trade him to Philly.
I just sit back and look at that, and I'm just like, that's typical. So,
and I'm playing the guy in my fantasy league who has ETN this week, and he's going to start him now because so it's like ETN's going to screw me in back-to-back years, I bet. That's my life.
We talked about the Giants earlier. They're 0-1 going against a Cowboys team that honestly looked really good against the Eagles. Now, granted, all that it took was if you just spit on the ground, one of their players spits on you. The Cowboys they did dodge a bullet with not having to play Jalen Carter. Not that I think it really would have, I think he does make a bigger impact on the game, but Philly could not stop Dallas's offense. The only thing that stopped Dallas's offense was CeeDee Lamb dropping the ball. Dallas, and Dak especially, has murdered the Giants. Like, he's had tremendous games. The line's 5.5. I love Dallas in the game. That now, I already love that they're having to be like, no, Russell Wilson's our starter, which is like, so it's a ticking time bomb now on Russell Wilson not being the starter. What are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, not much to expand on there. Just like Dallas should come out and dominate. There's nothing that those things that happen, like CeeDee Lamb dropping the ball. I get it, dude. That sucks, but like, I'm not worried about that continuing. You know what I mean? And like, that's not going to continue. So the running game looked a lot better than we were going to give them credit for. Again, you can make the argument that like not having Jalen Carter there in the middle was the reason for that, but like the Giants don't have a Jalen Carter to even get kicked out of the game before it starts anyway, so it should be full systems go for Dallas there.
Yeah, and I mean that's the non-player speaking here, but like CD still had a great game. Like, yes, in the worst possible time, he didn't make the catch. Like, Copy got it. But, like, at the same time, you're playing the best team in the NFC to start the season. And yes, they're a division rival. You're going to see them again. But guess what? It was a one-score game, and like I think that's what everybody's forgetting is like Dallas, like there were a lot of question marks. Is Schottenheimer going to be a good coach? And by what we saw last week, he did just fine against the best team in the NFC. And I think Dallas, contender is the wrong word to say, but they're going to be in the race at the end of the season and going against the Giants, just like we all said, you guys already mentioned it, the ticking time bomb of when is Jackson Dart going to get to play? And I don't think it's this week necessarily, but I mean, dude, Russ looks bad.
It felt like the ball don't lie kind of scenario where it's like Jalen Carter gets kicked out and it's like, ooh, Dallas has a chance. But then CD drops the ball, a couple passes that, could end up winning the game. And it's like, all right, if you take everything out of that and just go like, let's say Jalen Carter played, let's say CD Lamb catches passes, it probably ends up being the exact same score. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's probably the same exact kind of game that ends up playing out. So that felt like a ball don't lie kind of situation for me. Speaking of Jalen Carter, did y'all see that like I'm pretty sure it was like a fake, Twitter post where he was like, man, you can't even moisturize the opposing team's QB anymore. The league is soft. I had to throw that out. It was just hilarious. But ridiculous, like so selfish. I can't believe. I'm not surprised because again, we've seen these kind of issues play out before. But I can't believe someone could be so selfish and put their team at risk like that before the season even starts.
Yeah. All right, Pops. Here comes the pain. Bears give up to JJ McCarthy. And by give up, it felt like right after the pick six, the Bears just said, we don't want to play football anymore. And the Vikings took over the game from that point forward, going against the Lions, who I'll give you another credit, Pops. On this front, you were like, hey, I really feel like the loss of the coordinators is going to show, and did it ever? Because that offense looked 100 times different. Your thoughts on your Bears?
I was a little concerned with the offense, not from the sake of necessarily the offensive line. Like in my opinion, I saw improvements. I know you guys said they're still trash. Yes, there's still work to be done. Like Jonah Jackson or whatever his name, Jonah Jones, whatever his name is. The guy who had several penalties outside of Tooney and Dahlman. Like we still had issues on the offensive line. I will not talk that down, but like let's talk about when the pressure was finally on Caleb. The guy who's supposed to be the savior in these high pressure games, or high pressure situations, he looked awful. He could not complete a pass to save his life, overthrowing everybody. Like he had DJ Moore wide open. Like I'm not saying that we could go out there and do that, but like I don't know. I've played a few flag football games in the college days. Like you can hit that corner route, wide open. I can put it somewhere in the vicinity, and he just throws it out of bounds. And like that's what ended up being the issue at the end of the game was that when we get in these third situations, because the Vikings were eventually able to stop the run, Caleb had to throw, and he's just overthrowing everybody. And dude, that was painful to watch. Going into Detroit, honestly, in my opinion, I think the Bears are going to start 0-2. I do see the Lions winning this week. I give them the benefit of the doubt of being at home. They're going to be motivated to beat Ben Johnson. So I will say that the Bears are going to be 0-2 after this week.
There's a lot to unpack with that Bears game. I try to keep my Caleb Williams bias out of it, but like it's difficult because he was also making some really good plays. Like there were times where, he's throwing the ball and like, it's one of those, like the camera can't even keep up with it because my man is just zooming balls in there. Like the talent is so obviously clearly there. However, he was making some really bad plays where you're just like, oh my gosh, any other NFL starting quarterback hits that guy. Like,
yes.
And it was ironic that the pick six was like the downfall that happened. So I don't think it's like a test. I'm glad that I didn't see it too much, but like I was fully expecting this like JJ McCarthy's in the put him in the Hall of Fame type of rhetoric after that game, and I'm glad I didn't really see that because JJ looked like a rookie quarterback playing in his first game. There was he did what he needed to do at the end of the game, which helped them win. So, take that for what it is. But I still think JJ is not anywhere near the level of talent that everybody was talking him up to be. That being said, I'll say the one good thing for the Bears is they were dominating that game.
Yes.
For like the first 3 quarters. They were. So like the fact that you lost really sucks. I get it, but like they were dominating the game. So they just need to put together a complete game, and they are doing fine. I feel like the Bears are going to be in this kind of game like the whole season. It's going to be like good, competitive. If they can just do what they're supposed to be doing, they're going to be right in there in like all these games. Unfortunately, I just don't think they're complete enough to finish out enough games to get into the playoffs or have like a winning record. Because that being said, like Caleb was still under a lot of pressure. There was times when he wasn't and was missing throws, right? So it's like it's both sides to the same coin, but he was under a lot of pressure still, in that game. And the Vikings have a good front. So like they might not face that kind of front every single game, but like if they can't get Caleb comfortable in the pocket, he's going to keep missing throws because he's worried about taking sacks.
Two last things on that. For me, I think it was in my Bears fan opinion, it was a night and day difference of Caleb in the first half versus Caleb in the second half. I will give you, he was threading that ball in the first half. And then after that, he started the game, he had 10 completions to start the game. Like, he was on fire. I was like, sweet, like, love this. This is what we were expecting out of him. And then that second half, the Vikings started stopping the run. We started going 3 and out. And it was the story of last season, is that the offense was not able to give the defense enough of a break before the Vikings offense got the ball back. And that's when you started to see, the Vikings catching momentum, is because our defense was tired. Not to forget to mention that Kyler Gordon was out, TJ Edwards was out, and Jalen Johnson, our top corner, was on the sideline. So, yes, I did like what I saw. Still some of the trickery, of Ben Johnson. It was there. I just think we still got a little bit of refining to do continuing the season.
Speaking of refining, this was my bigger headache during the game, and we've talked about this in text. When you have a young team and it's your first year as an NFL head coach, and your team hasn't been showing that it can dominate and win these situations, take the points.
Yes.
Like, dude, you had a chance to extend the lead and go up another 3. You should have took it. Now, I get a few drives later, kicker misses it. But even if he had made that, if you had went for it on the first one and he had made it, it's a tied game there at the end of the game.
Correct.
Like, that to me is the bigger issue that I have. Like, I get Detroit and what they're doing because the team's stacked. And it's like, you have really good players. You're trying to build confidence and give Caleb as much help as possible. And it's like, I have a good defense. Like, I can stop these guys. Take the points. It drives me. And Campbell cost some games last year. And it was one of those things where it's like, dude, take the points.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up. Do you think it was really Campbell or is it Ben Johnson?
That's a great question.
Right? Like, ultimately Campbell's probably signing off on it, but maybe it's Campbell or maybe it's Ben Johnson. So who knows? I agree with you. That being said, moving over to the Lions, I think week 1 is just going to be one of those huge overreactions. Like, they absolutely got dominated by the Packers. I don't think that's the Lions team we see going forward for the rest of the season. I think this is just going to be a big overreaction. And they should play play better moving forward.
And last plug on that 4th and 2, I texted you guys. I said, had they been able to get the playoff at the line, I'm okay with it. But the moment that they took the time out to go reset, and then Brian Flores gets the chance to talk to the defense, take the points. It's done. The momentum's gone. We've been able to reestablish the baseline. Take the field goal.
100%. Next game, Rams, they come off a good win against the Texans. Titans lose a close one in Denver. Denver really tried to give them the game. 4 turnovers for Denver. And on top of that, I was watching the end of the game. Dude, Cam Ward was hitting Calvin Ridley in the hands. Like, his dad, I felt bad for Cam Ward's dad. His dad's ripping his hat off because It's like my son is literally hitting you guys in the hands. He's giving you every opportunity to take the ball down the field to possibly win this game. And the Titans blew it. Like, I really like Cam Ward. The dude was absolutely slinging it. The issue is they're just not as talented as their quarterback is, which is crazy because he's a rookie out there shining. Going against the Rams, what do you guys think in terms of outcome? Rams right now -5.5.
Yeah, spot on. Cam Ward did exactly what Cam Ward should have done. Like there was very little critique from like what was going on with him. I thought he played fine. That being said, Denver's defense didn't show up. Denver's offense didn't show up. Denver tried every which way to give them that game and still was able to come out with a win, which just goes to your point of Tennessee is just not a talented football team. I think the Rams are a much more talented football team, and I think they should have no problem because their defense is going to put a lot more pressure on Cam Ward. They're probably going to make him make a few more mistakes, and the Rams offense is going to do better than what the Broncos offense showed. I'm not saying that they're necessarily better, but they should do better than what the Broncos, offense put up week 1, and it's probably going to get it. I don't want to say it's going to get out of hand, but the Rams should have this one handedly.
Yeah, and I mean, I look back, how many games last year, the Titans defense was able to keep, the Titans in games, and it was purely just Will Levis making terrible decisions with the ball. Now, this past week, they only had 133 yards on offense for the Titans, and I mean, going up against a giant like Hall of Famer Matt Stafford, like they put up 300 yards of offense. Still not a whole lot, but still week 1, that's a favorable amount. I don't think that the Titans are going to be able to outmatch Matthew Stafford.
Next game, trash bowl of the AFC West or AFC East. You got the Patriots who couldn't find a way to get enough offense going against the Raiders against the Dolphins, who implosion like that, dude.
Pour one out for Slam,
dude. Oh my gosh, dude! Yeah. Like McDaniel, if he's not the hottest hot seat in the world in terms of NFL head coaches, it's him. Like I sort of sit back and go, if this season continues as I think it's about to for the Dolphins, you for sure see Tyreek Hill get traded before the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if they get rid of Waddle and just like I can see a complete rebuild coming in Miami. I get it's post week 1. Miami's a favorite in this game by -1.5, which I don't know how to read into that. Like
they're at home. I've
so you got $100. Who are you putting it on? It's a fake $100, but you got 100. Who are you putting it on?
Georgia. I would put on the Patriots because the Dolphins showed in week 1 that they were absolutely non-competitive against. I'm not saying like if it was against like the Eagles, you're like fine, you know what I mean? They got blown out by a really good team. The Colts are not like a fantastic team. They looked fantastic because the Dolphins just, again, were non-competitive. I don't think the Raiders are a super great team, but like at least the Patriots looked like a professional football team out there. Like the Dolphins looked like a high school team. They couldn't catch passes. They couldn't block. They couldn't hold on to the ball. Tua was throwing it to the wrong guys. Like it was awful from start to finish. There was nothing good about anything that happened in that game for Miami.
Yeah, and I think, Vrabel struggled to show it last week, against the Raiders, but we still, for me, this is going to be the telltale sign of who Vrabel truly is, because like we all were upset when he got fired from Tennessee, so he took a year off, and now we truly get to see just what kind of coach he is, coming back to his own roots and what he's known with the Patriot way, and just seeing if he can get his best foot forward moving throughout here. I don't think Drake May played as good as he could have. We saw a lot of better things last year out of his rookie season once he finally got off the bench. And maybe this is one of those case examples of, that sophomore slump. I think it's too early to tell in week 1. I was really surprised that the Raiders were able to beat them, to be honest. But I'll take the Patriots in this one.
I'm in the same boat with the Pats. My problem with the Dolphins, like I love Tua for what he did at Alabama, but at no point in Tua's NFL career has this been anything different. Like he will have some passes that you're like, man, it's sort of like Derek Carr. Like every once in a while, he'll show you something and you're like, man, this dude could be special. But overall, like when you look at it from a totality of year by year, you go, dude, he's a below average NFL quarterback. Like he turns the ball over a lot.
He had like one stretch of games, I want to say 2 years ago, like before like all the concussions started happening. It was like maybe like a 5-game span where he was looking real good, like put together. But that's it. Like outside of, like he's riding that one stretch of games, like and like you said, has been below average essentially his entire career.
And I don't mean this from like an injury standpoint in terms of like advocating for an opposing team to do this. The Colts hit him with a pretty good sack. And from that point forward, the game was over. I feel like he is sort of like Peyton back when Peyton got happy feet, that if you can just hit Tua good one time, it just messes him up for the rest of the game, whether that's a head injury or just sort of his just overall pocket awareness. Like,
or he's trying to avoid another injury because he probably knows he's only got one left, kind of deal. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if he's thinking about that instead of reading the defense or like what coverage he's in, that's obviously going to affect the game.
100%. Following game, bigger on the injury front, Niners are saying Purdy could be out up to 5 weeks. Same with Kittle. Purdy's got a non-throwing shoulder injury and toe injury. Kittle hurt his hamstring. The one I'm more concerned about is Kittle, just because that hamstring's so easy to tweak. They're going against the Saints, who the Saints are a bad football team. Yes, they kept it close against Arizona. That's sort of Arizona's mantra throughout all of the NFL, is keeping it close with a team that you really shouldn't keep it close to. Right now, San Francisco's -3.5. They did start before the Purdy news was announced. They were at 4.5, so Vegas still likes them. They're in New Orleans. Usually it's a 3-point swing for the home team, so really Vegas is telling you they do like San Francisco by a touchdown. What do you guys think in terms of outcome of the game?
Give me Mac Jones.
I think people forget that Mac Jones, when Trevor Lawrence went out, looked good. Wasn't a halfway bad quarterback. And what I told Maul was, because we were talking about survivor picks, is that if you trust Kyle Shanahan to have a good coach team, then I think that he does well against, New Orleans in this game. They still have Christian McCaffrey, and I can feel like that's what Maul's about to say. So go ahead.
That was going to be my point. You kind of said you're more concerned about Kittle from an injury standpoint. Yeah, I agree with you. Like a hamstring's harder to come back from, but losing a tight end, I mean, Kittle's an absolute fantastic player, and every single team would be better with Kittle on their roster. But losing a tight end, not devastating. Losing a quarterback is typically more devastating, for sure. That being said, you could go out there and hand the ball off to Christian McCaffrey or hit him on a swing pass 45 times a game, because that's what they do anyway, and the dude is a weapon, right? So this was my argument in the survivor pool piece, is that if you do think that the Niners are in a bad spot going forward because they're going to lose some top guys for like the next 4 or 5 weeks, you're not going to feel comfortable picking the Niners in any of those games going against good teams. So if there was ever a time to pick the Niners, it's this week against the Saints, because they're such a bad team, and Christian McCaffrey alone can probably beat the Saints.
I agree. That, and the thing that gives me a good feeling about the 49ers is their defense. I like the 49ers defense more than anything that I think New Orleans can possibly produce on offense. Following game, Bills have a playoff game type of win against the Ravens, coming back from 15 down in order to win. Going against the Jets, who, dude, say what you want. I know they lost, but they gave Pittsburgh everything that they could possibly handle, and Fields looked really good in the Jets uniform. Buffalo's -6.5 going to MetLife. Thoughts on the game?
I mean, I think that's generous, without a doubt. You know, like, even you didn't mention it, but Breece Hall was looking really good too, and he hasn't looked that good since his rookie season. I know he popped his ACL. You know, it's been coming back from that kind of stuff, but I don't think that the Jets will be able to pull the upset. But I do think it's going to be closer than 6.5, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is one of those, like, two complete opposite ends of the spectrum here. From like the Jets played really good football, a really solid football game, and ended up losing. The Bills really didn't play that solid of a football game and ended up winning. Now, competition plays a huge factor in that, right? Like, the reason the Bills probably didn't look super good is because they're playing the Ravens, which, you know, I know you Pops and Dutch and I both have won the Super Bowl. Pops, I don't know who your Super Bowl pick was, but you know that obviously affects who, you know, how the Bills played. So I don't think it ends up affecting the outcome of the game. I still do think the Bills take this one, but I just think it's interesting, like, how opposite ends of the spectrum come out with different results, and you know what kind of momentum that carries forward.
Do you regret giving up Fields yet?
Who? From the Bears?
Yeah.
I think he was the scapegoat. I 100% believe that. Like, I hate to admit that, because I thought I enjoyed what he was doing from the dual threat aspect. You know, he was not always the reason why we were losing the games, and they led him to the slaughter to be the scapegoat. And yeah, I would be thrilled if he was still in a Bears uniform.
I would say you probably more regret. It's not so much of that you don't have Fields, that it's like that you could have gotten probably a lot for that Caleb Williams #1 pick, from draft pick or even other players, as opposed to, you know, blaming it all on Fields. That being said, going back a little bit, Caleb Williams is no Justin Fields. I think we both know that, but my man looked quick out there. Like, he wasn't like juking and jiving, but when he was getting around corners, he was running.
Yeah. And it was cracking me up too, because I always watch the Manning cast. No offense to Troy and Joe, but I just enjoy a little bit what Peyton and Eli bring on that game. And Peyton every time was like, throw it away. And then next thing you know, Caleb takes off for a first down. And he's like, all right, I forget. I couldn't run the ball.
He's fast.
Yeah.
I like the Bills in the game. Before we move on. Next game up, little DK Metcalf revenge. You got Seattle going to Pittsburgh. Seattle's coming off very close loss to the Niners, playing against Steelers, who Aaron Rodgers, 4 touchdowns. Was the pocket mobility there? No.
Mm-mm.
But was the arm there? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dude was sharp. If they can protect him and give him time in the pocket, and I think the Arthur Smith offense works in his favor of a lot of bootlegs, run the ball. That's what he tried to do in Atlanta a lot. This is going to be your typical, they'll be a playoff team. Do they win the Super Bowl? Probably not. But this is the Steelers that you've seen for the last, under the entire Tomlin regime. Thoughts of the game?
This one's tough for me. I think it's going to be close, because I thought Seattle they looked like a good football team, kind of just well-rounded all together. I may have been a little biased watching the Steelers game, just because I think watching it, I thought the Jets were going to be worse than they were. So, like, the whole time watching it, I think I felt that the Steelers aren't doing what they should be doing. But, you know, after kind of reflecting on it, I think the Jets just played a much better football. So I think this one's going to be close. This one's real tough for me, just because they're both kind of solid, you know, right there in the middle type football teams. I think it's going to be a good matchup. If you made me pick a winner, I think I'm taking the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm gonna go opposite. I'm gonna go with the Steelers, just being there in Pittsburgh. I think that obviously is going to play beneficial to them, just like it did last week. Dude, for what I saw out of Aaron Rodgers was very impressive. Now, granted, he did take 4 sacks, and it's just, again, like we talked about, age is just catching up to him. Obviously we get older every single day, and the throws that he was throwing, though, man, he was still. I think I can't remember who said it. I think it was Brady said that Aaron Rodgers is the best passer of all time, and I mean it showed yet again. Even at 40, 41, still just throwing dots
with a flick. Like
yes.
Dude, he'll have the ball. It's just like a wrist, and it's gone.
And it's always.
It's incredible. I like this. The Seattle in the game, and it's if I had one thing to say about the whole Jets game, it's that Pittsburgh's interior defensive line could not stop anybody. Like, thank God they have TJ Watt, because if they don't, they lose the game. Like, TJ was all over that field. But Cam Hayward, who was talking about like sitting out, looks like he's put on 30 pounds and not in a good way. Like, the middle of their defense on defensive line got shoved around that entire game, which is crazy seeing that the Jets lost their starting guard before the season began. Like, it wasn't a good look for the Steelers defense.
They got some breaks that helped them be in the position to win the game. Like, they played a good football game. That's why they were in a position to win, but they got some breaks from the Jets that allowed them to eventually win.
The special teams turnover for the Jets killed them.
Yes.
Like, it put Rodgers right into the end zone, and they turned it into 0.7. Like, that killed them in that game, which I needed because I picked them in my survivor pool. So Thank you. This is one of my survivor locks. You got the Browns, who, yes, played Joe Burrow very well. If the kicker had made the kick, they win the game. Going against the Ravens, who blow a substantial lead against a good team. Really, if Henry doesn't turn the ball over, I still think the Ravens win. It was one of those ones that they cost yet again. It's the Ravens beat themselves. It's not that I get Buffalo made the plays when they had to make the plays, but it was only because Baltimore allowed them back into the game. Baltimore is, I believe, this week the highest spread favorite of 11.5 right now by Vegas. Any chance the Browns beat the Ravens?
0 chance.
Yeah, and that's the thing we're talking about. Just looking at how bad the Bengals defense is, the Browns were only able to put up 16 points. And no offense to Flacco, like, he looked as decent as, again, another 40-year-old quarterback could, but they just aren't able to string anything together. And honestly, that quarterback room's that's the thing we've talked about since the early 2000s with the Browns. They just haven't had a guy. They let go of the one down to the Buccaneers. Again, another scapegoat. And yeah, just like I texted you guys on Sunday night, I was like, if you told me Derrick Henry was going to have 175 yards and 2 touchdowns and still lose the game, like, you're out of your mind. And that's what happened. He fumbled in the worst possible time, and the Bills, being a playoff team, was able to capitalize on it.
Yeah. Did y'all see that stat that was like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something about like a team up by 2 touchdowns with more than like 200 rushing yards in the fourth quarter up until that game was like 244-0. And after the Bills won, it was 244-1. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was some kind of crazy stat like that. Like, when you have those stat lines and are winning by that much late in the game, you don't lose the game. Like, that's never happened before. And, being a division rivalry game, I think the Ravens come and take all their frustration out on the Browns, and it's going to be 44-0 at halftime.
Agreed. Lock of the week. Next game up, Broncos, who get a win against the Titans. It wasn't a good win. It was a win because the Titans, just like we talked about earlier, just not a great football team. Against the Colts, who I thought was me and Maul saw the same clip, and it was hilarious when he brought it up. It was like Danny Dimes on the Colts, what it looks like, and it was just Peyton Manning highlights. Looked great. Like, they throttled Miami. He looked good, which he did show signs up in New York that he wasn't bad. It was just, if you want to put it on anything, that's just the Giants. Like, and it was also the Giants paying him too much and putting yet again this almost like this unescapable burden on him to now try to overcome. He's in Indy, and it's really just a prove it year. Indy's only got him for a 1-year deal. I think Indy's already done with A-Rod. You sit back and look at them based upon how bad the Broncos played last week. You got to give the Colts a fighting chance. It's in Indy. Denver right now is minus 1.5 point favorite.
I think that's the key right there. And I think it's a week 1 type things happen, but this is one of those where it's like, it's too tough to tell. Like, because Indy did look really good and the Broncos just didn't. So maybe, there's something to it. So that's why the line's so close. I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of defense shows up for the Broncos, because that'll be the difference maker of like what happens to the Colts when all of a sudden Danny Dimes is struggling a little bit, right? Because like again, I can't emphasize this enough that the Dolphins were wet paper. Like everybody looked amazing in that game because of how bad the Dolphins were, and it's easy to get into a flow and start really clicking when you are having so much success. So if the Broncos D can show up, who knows? That maybe puts a little more stress on Danny Dimes. But if the Broncos D plays like they played week 1, I'll give it to the Colts. I think the Broncos are a better football team. So if they show up and play like they did last year, like we all expected them to come out and do this year, the Broncos are a better football team. But if they struggle on defense, or they can't put up points like they were against the Titans, the Colts will take it.
I mean, I'll go back. I think this Shane Steichen's 3rd year in the as the Colts head coach, and it just goes to show like they thought he was the offensive guru, when he was in Philadelphia and all that kind of stuff going on, and that's pretty much what led him to get this job. And obviously, it didn't work out with Anthony Richardson, and Daniel Dimes is taking every opportunity that he can. And honestly, in my opinion, Danny Dimes has nothing left to play for, because he got the big bag from New York, and so he's set for the rest of his life. So in my opinion, Danny Dimes is going to be playing to the highest level that he can possible, just to try to, for survival, just to stay in the league a little bit longer. And I think he's proven that if he can't be a starter, then he can definitely be a valuable backup to have on a team. And I think that's why they brought him into Indianapolis. And right now he's seizing the opportunity. He played really well. Just look at stat line. He was 22 for 29 for 262, 292. I can't remember. But they were also running the ball really well too. They had 156 yards on the ground. And if Denver turns over the ball like they did, I think they have 4 turnovers, we said, against the Titans. It's really anybody's game. And just being in the Loud House, I don't know, man. I could see Indy being 2-0 right here.
Next game up is the Labubu Bowl. You've got Bryce Young going against Kyler Murray. I was going to say Midget Bowl, but, figured this was a little bit better.
Labubu.
Panthers got schwacked by Jacksonville, and I had them as a playoff team, and yet again, I feel like Booger McFarland on that pick. Going against Cardinals, who did what they needed to and got the win against the Saints. It wasn't the prettiest of wins, but that it's still an NFL team. That's the only thing I go back to, like with the Colts, Dolphins. They throttled an NFL team. Like, it wasn't Spencer Rattler out there. Like, we expected New Orleans to be that bad. Miami to just get throttled by Indy was not a good sign for the team. The Panthers, on the other hand, it's like they chose to go offense in the draft. They needed it. And then it didn't yield the results that anybody was hoping for against the Jags, who I would argue they have a great defensive line on paper in terms of draft picks, but they've never been this like revered defense in the league. Right now, Arizona is a touchdown favorite, -6.5. Thoughts on the game?
I would love to get like an AI breakdown of like Arizona against the spread and like, how big the spread was versus like how close the game ended up being, just because like you mentioned it, like Arizona's mantra is always to play to the level of their competition. I think they're a much better football team. Kyler Murray was dealing with an illness last week too, so that may have played into why they didn't necessarily dominate the Saints as much as we thought they were going to. So I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out. But again, I just think the Panthers are just going to be outmatched from a talent standpoint most of the season, and this is another one of those where the Cardinals are they're going to just be too much for them. I don't have a good answer on the spread on that one. I don't know, just because, again, I feel like it'll probably be closer than that, just knowing the Cardinals, letting them back in the game or something. But I do think the Cardinals get the win. Because it's also in Arizona, which is a East Coast team going west, and all that stuff plays into account.
In the past 10 games, the Cardinals were 7-3 against the spread.
There you go.
I asked for the 20 games, but AI couldn't do it. Typical. Pops, who you got winning?
Arizona.
Next game up, Super Bowl rematch. Eagles go to Kansas City. Philly right now, -1.5 point favorites. I have not heard on Xavier Worthy. You have the Chiefs that come out week 1 against the Chargers. Maul, put the crown on his head. He was the only guy of us to pick the Chargers to win the division. I think all of us knew that eventually the Chargers' time was going to come. They looked really good. Herbert was absolutely slinging it. They come away with the victory. The Eagles, yes, start off the game, Jalen Carter getting kicked out before the first play, scrapping it away with Dallas, but they do come out with a divisional win, which is still saying something, just because I think in the past 15 years, no one has won the division back-to-back. So it's the Eagles' time to try to break that streak. Surprising that they are 1.5 point favorites just because of revenge and all that, but also not surprising from the standpoint that when you look at Kansas City's offense, in my opinion, there's not a ton there, especially with the loss of Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice being suspended through the first 6 weeks. What are your all's predictions for the game?
Go ahead, Pops.
Yeah. So for the Xavier Worthy thing, I think it came out earlier today or the other day. He's going to be playing in a brace, kind of like Baker did, holding that shoulder tucked in. But honestly, watching the game against the Chargers, they weren't able to get Pacheco going, and that's what allows for them to open up the pass game. And if Pacheco's not able to get going, and which, newsflash, it's going to be tough to do against the Eagles anyways. Like, they're still going to struggle offensively, and the fact that the Eagles were able to handle the game, I wouldn't say, dominate, but that they were able to handle the game against the Cowboys without A.J. Brown getting any action. I think what we're going to see is, I think the Eagles can go in there and win the game at Arrowhead.
Yeah. Jalen Carter got like a 1-game suspension, but they said essentially the 1 game he sat out was the Cowboy game. So, like, he's back in the middle. And, Pop said it, like, Pacheco was not running well. Like, they couldn't run, that it was struggling for that offense to get going because they can't run the ball. And they're going to struggle against the Eagles front too. And not that the Chargers ran the ball a ton against the Chiefs, but they were moving them. The Chiefs defense was not, like, they weren't stopping the run very well when they needed it to. Herbert had a fantastic game, but again, that goes with, like, because they were able to run the ball. And newsflash, the Eagles like to run the ball. So sad part is I really don't think there's anything wrong with the Chiefs. Like, it's hard to really pinpoint, like, where they could improve, other than, like, they just are old. Like, they're just, like, past their prime by this much, and it's just, that's what happened in the Chargers game. It was like they just couldn't keep up at the end of the day. Like, they were just slightly outmanned or, outgunned because they're just a little on the older side. And I think the Eagles are probably a better team than the Chargers, so I don't expect anything different.
The only thing about last year's game and this year's game, especially watching that Dallas game, I get Jalen Carter wasn't in the game. That line had zero impact on Dak.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could not get a rush.
And the secondary wasn't doing super well either. Like they lost some guys. So that's probably Casey's best hope is just Mahomes going to throw 55 balls and hope somebody can get open, but they don't have a ton of weapons out there either.
I think that the total's 46.5, and I think this is going to smash on the over. Like I feel like it's going to be one of those games that whose defense can just get a stop. Because like you said, it's not that the Chargers ran well, but they ran well enough, and the Eagles are going to do that. And I didn't see anything out of Casey's defense, and I'm like, oh yeah, with everyone on the because if there's one thing that wasn't missing against the Dallas game, it was the Eagles' offense. Like they're just as good as they were last year, if not better, in terms of just another year together. I think whoever's defense can just get a stop here and there is going to win the game, and that's why it's close at a point and a half. But I don't see this 26-20 game. I think it's in the 30s for sure for both teams. Just my opinion. I like the Chiefs. Because of how bad the corners played with Philly. The Philly's defense looked worse against Dak and that offense, which I get they have CD. I like Mahomes. Just me. Sunday night game. You've got Penix, who really gave the Buccaneers all they wanted. The Buccaneers were really lucky to come away with a win after not beating the Falcons at all last year. Playing the Vikings. JJ gets his first win. JJ also hasn't lost a regular season game in almost 2 years. So as the starter, he did miss all last year. Many right now, -3.5 point favorites. Are y'all?
I don't like
yeah. I don't either. I like the Falcons in the game.
This is my trap. This is my trap game, dude. This is Falcons lost, Vikings won. We all expect JJ to be amazing. Vikings are the favorite. Nope. Dude, I think the Falcons played a very, very good game against the Bucs. I think Penix did well. Bijan is an absolute weapon. As long as the Falcons receivers are healthy,
London's playing.
Okay, so I know London was iffy. I think Mooney is still iffy, but I think because again the Vikings got dominated. They got dominated for 3/4 of that football game. The Bears just did Bears things and let them come back and win. So like I think this is the trap game. I've got the Falcons.
Yeah, and I mean looking at the stats, I mean the Falcons put up 360 yards of offense. Like they're able to move that ball, and I don't think that I think there was enough to see last week with the holes that the Vikings have that I think the Falcons are going to win this game.
Agreed. Monday night, we get 2 games. First, Bucks versus Texans. Bucks have the win over the Falcons. Texans lose. They were driving at the end of the game against the Rams to try to make, complete the comeback, and guy fumbles, turns it over. Rams seal the game with that. You want to talk about a star on the horizon? It's Emeka Egbuka.
Mm-hmm.
Dude looked every bit the part with Tampa Bay. Caught the game-winning touchdown from Baker. Once Chris Godwin and those guys are healthy, dude, the Buccaneers' offense is scary, downright scary. I like them against the Texans. I haven't seen it. You brought it up earlier, Pops, with the CJ Stroud. It's not that he's played bad. It's just he hasn't been able to get back to the level of that rookie season. What do you think the reason is behind that?
I mean, last year all his wide receivers were hurt. If I'm just being honest, like Stephon was down there, didn't do a single thing. Nico Collins was out. Tank Dell was out. Like that, he didn't have the pieces around him. And I want to say his line was pretty trash too.
They got rid of Tunsil last year too in the offseason.
That's what it was. Yeah. Yep. And that was really, just painful to watch last season. And, only putting up 9 points against the Rams. Like, I get it. The Rams are always going to be a contending team. I think they're playing the same team in the Buccaneers. Like the Bucs and the Rams, I put them kind of in the same category. They're going to be in the playoffs probably not going to get past the divisional round, but they have the opportunities, they had the pieces to get to the championship game, but obviously always fall short. And they're kind of the same team, in my opinion, with a high explosive offense.
Yeah, the leading receiver last week for the Texans was Higgins, the rookie, 2 catches for 32 yards. That's not going to win you games in the NFL.
No.
Pops, who you got in the game? Or not Pops, Maul, who you got in the game?
Yeah, I got the Bucks again. Pops said it pretty well. It's tough. This is why I brought up the whole thing with CJ Stroud earlier. Is just like it's just tough when you have that fantastic rookie season and just kind of trying to constantly live up to it. I think they're still fine. Like they're still going to compete. They looked a little sloppy. So did the Bucks, though. Honestly, they looked a little sloppy as well. I think the week 2 stuff kind of figures some of that out. I'm a little surprised that the Texans are the favorites. If anything, I would have thought that the Bucks would have just been the favorites, just simply because of the win-loss thing of how it went down last week. But Pop said it great. Like I think the Rams and the Bucks are very comparable teams, and I think the Bucks end up taking the win on this one.
Final Monday night game. It's going to be a painful one to stay up and watch. Doesn't kick off till 10 p.m. Eastern. Yeah. Chargers versus the Raiders. Right now, Chargers 3.5-point favorites on the road. Do you give Pete Carroll any type of advantage in this game against Harbaugh? They have played one another in college.
I mean, who won?
I give Pete.
It was Harbaugh, was it not?
Harbaugh, dude. Harbaugh was our kryptonite. He was taking unranked Stanfords and beating number 2 USCs, dude. Like Harbaugh was a kryptonite for Pete Carroll.
Mark's down in notes. Bet the house on the Chargers.
I agree that the Chargers are probably going to end up winning this game, but I'll be honest, I did not see Pete turning that team into what they were last week. Like if you told me that the Raiders were going to win that game in Foxborough, like I didn't see that happening. And Geno was playing really well in my opinion. And Genty was finally able to start moving the ball as well. Like they don't have all the pieces. They're still going to struggle, but I mean, they might be able to throw fits to the Broncos and the Chiefs this year because the Chiefs always suck against the Raiders, so we might see some more upsets this season, with a more experienced quarterback than Aiden O'Donnell running the offense.
This is another line that I was kind of shocked upon. After the Chargers just went out and played such a good game against the Chiefs, I would have thought the line would have been bigger. The only logical thing I can think of is that it's because it's a divisional like rivalry game and those tend to be kind of closer. Maybe that's what's going on. I picked the Pats last week, so I'll, full disclosure, I didn't think that the Raiders were going to win that game either. However, I did say this in our previews episode that that was exactly what I thought the Raiders were going to do. Like we know they're not a complete full team, but they're going to go out and surprise people every few weeks here and there of like, they're going to show up and play a game where you're going to be like, oh man, the Raiders are kind of good. And like, to be honest, the Pats probably still should have won the game even as well as the Raiders played. So again, you like take it with a grain of salt, but I am surprised that it's only 3.5 considering how well the Chargers just played against the Chiefs. I think the Chargers take the W and probably cover the spread.
If the Raiders don't get home to Herbert, he is going to knife them up. That dude, at least last week, there wasn't a quarterback in my mind that played better. That dude was a laser, and he made plays with his legs. He did exactly what we saw. What's nuts is it was the same Herbert that we saw right before Harbaugh got there. And like last year when they ran the ball so much, it was like, do we not trust Herbert? Like what's going on? Are we going to be a running team? What's happening? Game 1 against the Chiefs, it's like, dude, Chargers offense looks potent right now. If they can run the football with Hampton, which not having Christian Wilkins hurts this defense. Like I get they have Max Crosby, who's a freak, but Pops pointed out like the Raiders are missing a lot of pieces. Were they well coached and come out and get a win? Absolutely, which was surprising against the Patriots. I thought that Drake May was going to have a better game.
Same.
But from a standpoint of who do I think is going to win? Yeah, the Chargers. And I'm with Maul. -3.5. Vegas must know something I don't, which is why they have those big casinos and I don't. So it's probably danger of me saying that the Chargers are going to cover the spread, but that's where I like them. I like them by more than 3.5. That wraps up week 2 NFL. Any final thoughts before closing out the episode?
So glad football's back.
Oh, yeah.
You'll say that up until lose a few more bets.
Till what time's the game start tonight? 8:20. And I'll be like,
yeah,
Josh Jacobs, please.
I was telling somebody the other day that, I was over Beast's house and he was asking, what do you think? And I was like, if I could live anywhere, it'd be California. He's like, California? Why? I was like, dude, I remember one time I woke up and I was like, oh, college game day. It's like 8:55. I'll turn on the game and Lee had, of course, I was putting on the, yeah. I was like, is this a rerun? And I'm like checking it. I was like, no. And then games kick off. It's like this 10 p.m. game over in Cali, it's 7 p.m. Like,
dude, I used to have to, we always watched film Monday nights for like our, we would practice and then we'd watch film on the team that we were about to play on Fridays. And I would have to like rush home because I live like 20-30 minutes from the high school. I would have to like speed home just to try to make kickoff on Monday nights because the game starts so early. Like my dad wouldn't get home till halftime sometimes. Like it's crazy.
I love it being back. I'm glad at least this Monday night they're splitting the games up in times because last year it was like a 7 at 8 o'clock kickoff time. It was like, dude, I want to watch both games, but
you had to choose.
I don't want to choose. I want to watch both.
I want all of it.
Yeah, it's like radio when he was in that pie shop. What pie you want? Both.
I want both.
You heard the man. That's how I feel.
Hey, plug for YouTube TV. You got the multi-view.
You are correct on that. Going back to Caleb Williams, I thought of something. You know who he looked like? Since you want to do this? Looked like Arch Manning. Tell me I'm wrong.
My man, not hitting the throws end of the game, sure.
The DJ Moore was
top receiver was that turf, dude.
Yeah, dude.
He did a lot. That and they got to get their snap count down because that cost them in the second quarter.
Gosh, that right tackle, dude.
Yeah,
he can't count or something.
True. All right, that wraps up the week 1 review and week 2 preview. Time to pull chalks. We'll see you guys after week 2.
Peace.